Hey guys, I get asked all the time, what should I take hiking, climbing, scrambling? So I thought rather than keep having to explain to people what I take, I put a short video together that explains what goes in my pack, and you can maybe take some ideas from that. Now don't use this as an exhaustive list because there's lots of resources online that will tell you many different things. So it's important to use this as a guide only and to make your own judgments about what you want to take. I thought it best to start from the bottom up. So with regards to socks, I find it's a little bit better to pay a little bit more money for socks because it's something very important to take care of your feet when you're in extreme conditions. I purchased these Chilton mountain socks and they've done me very well. They're extremely comfortable, hard wearing, and they keep the weather out. I've worn these down to maybe -40 in Canada before. My feet have never been cold. Of course you've got to combine that with good boots, but this is a very good start. Getting your trouser choice correct is really important because you want something that gives you the freedom of movement if you're climbing, walking, scrambling, but also that protects you from the cold. Now when you're going in winter, you preferably want a pair of fleece-lined winter trousers like these. These are Rab. I also have Montane and North Face. These will not keep the water out, but they are splash proof and drizzle proof and maybe sleep proof also. I recommend that if it's very wet or extremely cold that you wear a pair of waterproof over trousers for further protection. On my upper body, I always start with a thin short-sleeved thermal top. It's important to be comfortable and these are very good. This one is North Face and it's very thin but feels very good against the skin as a first layer. I can't really stress enough the importance of layering because it's important we don't get cold, but at the same time it's important we don't overheat. When we overheat in a cold environment, having sweat next to the body, your body core temperature can cool very quickly and before you know it you have hypothermia. On top of this first layer, I have a slightly thicker thermal top, this one by Berghaus. This is a very good thermal top. It has a zip on the front that goes down quite far. Might seem very unimportant at first, but quite often when I'm hiking or climbing and I'm getting very cold, by simply undoing that I can let quite a bit of heat out. My final underlayer is a mid-weight fleece. This Rab one is very good because it has a hood and quite often that's provided me with extra protection when I've really needed it. Again, this is your third layer. So when you get hot, this might be in your pack, tied around your waist, etc. But when it gets cold, you still have it there so you can layer up and protect yourself. Gaiters I find an essential item also. You might have waterproof trousers on, you might have the best waterproof boots on the market, but if you're walking through deep wet snow, then that snow can get up inside your trousers, inside your socks and down into your boots and then chilling your feet. So I recommend getting a pair of gaiters that come up to just underneath the knee. I see a lot of people with the very small gaiters. I find that's better for maybe low altitude or just underneath the snow line or just a normal wet day. But from experience, I definitely recommend a bit of a taller gaiter and preferably Gore-Tex at least. For my extremities, a simple mountain beanie is what I wear, and my gloves, these are a pair of Rab, very thin gloves with a grip on the inside, which is very good for when you're trying to do things like put crampons on or with your ice axe or using a camera and things. Very good. Even good for when you're doing very minor grade 1 or lower scrambling, etc. They give you a little bit of purchase rather than something a bit more cumbersome. For when the weather closes in or on a very bitter day, I always have a balaclava in my pack which will protect my ears and my head. I can then put my hood on over that or my hat on over that as well. And I also carry a pair of heavy duty mittens. Now you can get these very reasonable as well. These Montane mittens here have done me very well down to about -35, -40 and in Canada also. So I find that these are a very good thing to have in your pack for when you're stopping for a while or if the weather comes in or even when you're on your summit taking pictures and your body cools down a lot. It's important not to cool down too much, too quick. I always have in my pack a pair of waterproof trousers such as these. Waterproof trousers are generally very thin and can be scrunched up to a very small size, therefore not taking up too much room in your pack. With regards to jackets, this is my mountain jacket. It's fully Gore-Tex, fully waterproof, and very, very good. It is very thin. It's not designed necessarily to keep you warm, but more to keep out the elements. The layers underneath are what is going to keep you warm. But should you be wearing this over your layers and be cold, I also have a secondary jacket which is not weather resistant other than windproof. It's just another layer to go underneath in your layering system to keep you warm, safe and comfortable. Footwear is an essential thing to get right. You have to buy something that's right for you and that is comfortable for you, and most importantly, to wear it in before you go. I would always buy a Gore-Tex boot. Both types of my boots are Gore-Tex, but there's a big difference between the two. These Berghaus boots I wear summer and winter below the snow line. If I'm venturing above the snow line on anything other than a very basic slope, then I would move to these mountain boots. Now, I moved to these because they're crampon compatible, and it's very important to wear crampons on certain types of terrain. Crampons are an essential part of my pack when I'm venturing above the snow line. I always see people on Snowdon, Scafell, Nevis, etc. with no crampons, no ice axe, and this is such a big mistake to make. Easy routes turn into a death trap in winter, where a simple slip can sometimes be fatal. Having crampons in your bag, knowing how to use them, and wearing them at the appropriate times can prevent such a thing. It's essential in winter to carry an ice axe. I see too many people not carrying them these days, and these can really truly save your life. Before making a trip to the mountains and going into such adverse conditions, you must take note of how to use one of these. There's lots of tutorials online, but ultimately the best way is to learn with somebody that knows what they're doing. Most hikers and scramblers probably don't require the use of a helmet. However, I find that it's always best for me to take one just in case somebody else needs assistance in tougher terrain. Or what we also have to remember is winter gives a whole new dimension to the most normal and innocuous route on a mountain. Carrying a head torch is an essential item. Also, spare batteries just in case. Perhaps a little bit more unusual are cable ties. Now, people probably wouldn't think to take cable ties, but I find they can be very useful for running repairs to backpacks, footwear, crampons, etc. Maybe a little bit more important than taking cable ties is to remember to take a multi-tool, because otherwise you're not going to be able to remove these from something that you've done. When it comes to safety gear, I always carry a full mountain first aid kit, but more importantly, you must familiarise yourself with the items in this kit so you know where they are if you're under pressure or the weather conditions are really that bad. I also carry a storm shelter. Now this is bright orange, and that makes it much easier for other climbers, fell walkers, runners, hill walkers, trekkers to see where you are in case of emergency. And it also, while not keeping you particularly warm, it will take the wind chill off of you when you need to call for help. Blizzard survival bags. Now, I've not had to use one in this country yet, but they are a vital tool. Hopefully I'll never have to take this out of the pack, but if I need to, I know that I've got it there and I know that it's going to protect me. People always think that electronic devices such as a mobile phone are something that's going to save your life. And that is true to an extent, but as we all know, technology can fail. Now, I have myself a GPS watch with an altimeter and also a GPS device, but I stress these are backup to what is not going to fail you. Something that people underestimate: a detailed map of where you are going, a compass, and the know-how of how to use them. That is the most important thing. There's no point getting lost and having these with you if you don't know how to use them. So that is something that you can easily familiarize yourself online with, take a very brief course, etc., or speak to somebody that does know and then have it down to a T. Because when the mist comes in, the blizzards come in, and all features are blurred and you can't see where you're going, these tools are something that might just save your life. I always take 2 walkie-talkies with me when I go hiking or climbing. Sometimes I do go alone, but most of the time it is with other people. And having 2 walkie-talkies in a group can be very valuable if you do get separated. A good idea is to purchase a waterproof case for your mobile phone. Mountain rescue organisations in England, Wales and Scotland use an application called SARLOC to help pinpoint you. It's important not to rely on this and only use this in an absolute emergency, but having a fully charged mobile phone can be of real value. It's always very important to carry enough food and water when you're in the mountains, so make sure you carry more food and water than you think you're going to need, and this will help you should you be out there longer than what you think. Inside my pack with my extra gear, I always use these compression sacks. Sometimes people use waterproof ones, but my pack is waterproof, so I use these ones which are actually see-through, because then that allows me to go through my pack quite efficiently, sometimes in bad weather, and find what I want when I want. I always carry a 40-litre pack into the mountains. I do have a 50-litre also, and a slightly lighter pack, but I find this is most comfortable for fitting all of my equipment comfortably. Another thing that I recommend you do before you go is write down some information to display on your windshield. This might seem a bit silly, but it can actually aid mountain rescue, park wardens and anybody that might be looking for you should you be overdue. This might mean that mountain rescue doesn't get sent up the mountain. We should remember they are all volunteers and they are going into dangerous environments, and they shouldn't do that unless it's absolutely necessary. On this piece of paper, write your name and your friends' names that you're going with, your contact numbers, and an emergency contact number of somebody back home that can be reached. I would also write down the route that you are taking, what time you started the route, what time you intend to be back from the route. One other thing I'd write down is your experience and equipment, because it could be handy for people to know how experienced you are, what equipment you have. If you have axes and crampons, put them down. If you've logged many hours on snowy climbs, put them down. If you're a complete novice, write it down. All of these bits of information could be invaluable. It's a brilliant idea to register your phone with the emergency services. Sometimes we can't always make a call due to a very bad signal, and this will allow you to send a text to the emergency services of which they can then action. All you need to do is text register to 999 and then you will get a confirmation back. Well, I hope this information was useful. Please remember to have a good look around on the internet and on YouTube for similar videos so you can perhaps tailor your pack to what you actually want and what you actually need. Feel free to contact me at any time. My email address is on my channel and I'd be happy to take any questions you have. Take care and happy climbing.